Welcome. We appreciate you taking your time today to join us for this update on our new learning guides for Autodesk 2020 software. I guess we've rolled into a new decade here with software versions. I'm Rhonda Wiley. I'm the Business Development Manager for ASCENT, and I am joined by Jennifer McMillan, who is our Manager for Learning Content Development. She is our author and resident expert for the Inventor, Navisworks, Plant 3D, and other titles. So she's going to be reviewing the 2020 release roadmap that we have just put out and then highlighting some of the new titles that we have put out recently. ASCENT has been recognized by Autodesk as a member of their Authorized Publisher program. So for us to participate, we must meet a strict set of requirements that they have laid out for us. So that includes a minimum volume of content that's published. We have to adhere to learning objectives that and guidelines that they have given us, and then also specific technical and quality requirements. But the really nice thing is that that relationship with Autodesk gives us early access to new software releases. So where that benefits you is that we can review those changes in advance, see how that affects the learning guides, and then our teams can get going on updating the process, or on the update process rather, early in the year, so then we can have the introductory level titles ready to go and publish as soon as the software is released. Our development team's been hard at work already over the last few months, and so we've got several titles out already, and we've got a whole lot more to come. So now I'm going to pass it over to Jennifer McMillan to give you those highlights.
Great, thanks, Rhonda. So welcome, everyone. To start with, I just want to kind of go through the roadmap of the different software that we release. So our developers have been very busy the last couple months and have released a number of titles already within our list of titles. So I want to kind of go through that, give you a high level of what's changed in some of these guides. So initially, you're probably wondering, how we come up with these dates. So they do range, from when the FCS is out to kind of later in the year. And basically what we do is every year we look at the volume sold of each of these books. So that helps us in prioritizing. We also kind of look at what the changes to expect in the software. So in situations where there's big changes, I know that book's going to take a little longer to get out. Can we get out some of the ones that are faster, that type of thing? And then we also take into consider special needs from our customers. So, Rhonda is always open to talking with you guys, loves to hear from you. So if you have something that comes up that you really need a book for, talk to her and we can see if we can move things around in the schedule. I mean, it's not always possible, but, we definitely need to know when books are required from you guys. So to start off with, we'll talk about kind of the general design topics or softwares, and that includes AutoCAD. So AutoCAD historically has been one of our flagship books, so it's continuing to be a big seller for us. So to keep with that, we've released our fundamentals guide with the FCS of the software back in March. So you can see that there are a few released there. There's also more coming. So the AutoCAD Advanced book will be available shortly, as well as the metric versions of the fundamentals, Beyond the Basics, and Essential books. So in terms of AutoCAD, what my developer wanted me to pass along to you was that there were a number of changes, but nothing huge. So we'll just kind of summarize some of the different changes that you'll see in the book. So for you instructors, this is a good idea to understand that what's coming in the books. So specifically, we got some great feedback from you with the change to our smaller book size, that some of the images were too small. Specifically in the project exercises. So we've made an effort with the project exercises to go through, enlarge the graphics. If we had to recreate them, we've done that so that, where they're required to really look at dimensions in the image, they'll be able to see them a little bit better. Additionally, throughout the book, we looked at implementing any new functionality. So the new measuring tool has been incorporated, and the practices in Chapter 9 update have been updated to reflect that, where Autodesk has replaced the block dialog box. It's now the block palette, so that's all updated as well and reflected in the Chapter 12 exercise on that. We also revamped some of the array practices in Chapter 11. So previously, those still dealt with entering information at the command line. So we've gone to the more recent and updated workflow through the ribbon. So we've updated the exercises to incorporate that. And additionally, in fundamentals, we looked at reordering some of the content and updating the exercises in the workflow for creating layouts and named views. So you'll see some changes there as well. The advanced book I mentioned is coming soon, and one of the big changes in there is that we did update all the content on the web and mobile material. So you'll definitely want to take a review of that if you're about to teach that, that material. And then the other books on this title here, the list, AutoCAD Electrical, Mechanical, and Plant, those will be coming in the upcoming months. So in terms of our building design, again, there's a lot of titles here that my developer works on, and she has been madly working to get books out. Already we've released the AutoCAD Fundamentals for Architecture and the Fundamentals for MEP, so both of those are the Imperial books. As well, what will be coming soon will be the metric version of Architecture, and then followed up June, there's a number of titles in there as well that'll kind of round out the structure side of the Fundamentals courses. So you can see there's a lot of stuff that she is working on. She did want me to pass along a few highlights, and we'll talk through that quickly. With Revit, there were a number of changes implemented in the 2019.1 and .2 releases. So those have all been incorporated into Fundamentals guides. So you'll see that through all of the Fundamentals guides. And then specifically with 2020, there were a few things that she wanted me to mention. In terms of, you can now copy legends across sheets, so that's something important. And we are now showing this by adding a key plan to a sheet and then copying and pasting it to the same place on the other sheets. So we've used that, incorporated that. She's also incorporated a hint about PDF underlay references, so that's some new functionality. Now, it's just a hint because right now she is planning on covering that more in depth in the Collaboration Tools book. So it's just kind of a highlight in the book right now, but you'll see more on that in Collaboration Tools. And finally, for some of the more advanced books as well, she's going to look into some of the material enhancements, simplified shared coordinates, and new operators for filtering. So those will be all introduced into the BIM and Collaboration Tools books when they come out. Specifically in the Architecture Fundamentals book, she did make some changes, and definitely the first one here is of note to you and trainers that would be teaching this class. So in Chapter 14, it used to be a single annotation exercise, so she's now created it into two exercises. And the first one is dealing with a standalone practice just for text. And then another one in the picture here is dealing with the detail lines and symbols. So she's just divided it up a little bit to be a little bit more standalone. And then secondly, she talks about the path of travel tool, and she's added that into the appendix kind of as that nice to know functionality. So manufacturing. So Rhonda mentioned to you that my products are all in the manufacturing field. So I work specifically on the manufacturing material. So there wasn't a lot of big changes in this release. So what I want to do is just kind of show you a couple highlights of those. So the very first thing is you'll notice if you're familiar with Inventor is the interface has changed. So they've really introduced this lighter color scheme. I guess the time will tell how people like this. So but what it did impact was all of our graphics in the books, actually. So we had to replace all of the actual images in the training guide. So that's been done throughout. And then the other really big change is that similar to in the previous release when they updated the workflow for measuring and the whole command, they've done that now and expanded that into extrude, revolve, and sweep. So these are the dialog boxes here, and those now have been updated, and all of the content in the Introduction to Solid Modeling book reflects this change. So that is probably the biggest change that you'll see in that Introduction to Solid Modeling book. So along with that, you know, we review the entire book. We make sure changes are implemented. You know, we're always implementing enhancements from the trainers as they send them to us if there's mistakes or things they'd like to see. So absolutely, we love feedback. So please continue to send that to us. So the next one is our infrastructure and review category of software. So there's a number of them here. And what our developer on this wanted me to pass along are a few different things. So there wasn't a ton of changes to the actual functionality with 2020. So what we're looking at doing is implementing some subtle differences throughout, which are going to be intended to pave the way for maybe a more streamlined approach in these books. So here's some great examples here. So what Jeff has done is he's extended the use of data shortcuts for surfaces and corridors. So that basically is going to reflect in the book from about chapter 6 onwards. So you'll see some changes in data shortcuts being used there. Additionally, the next 2 bullet items here I've listed are specifically in the data set. So you're not going to see anything different in the functionality in the books, the layout, the workflows. It's just in the data set. So what he's done is he's gone through and he's updated the use of XREFs to be overlaid and has also given proper annotation scales to the files. He's also expanded the use of reference templates for styles. So those are big changes that are in the data set. And again, those are helping to pave the way maybe to a little bit more of a streamlined workflow that will be incorporated to show more real world workflow. And then finally, this is one enhancement that we had received from a number of trainers where now the intersection corridor is now part of the Jeffreys Ranch Road corridor. So for you that are familiar with the book, this would make sense to you. And this is incorporated in chapter 8. So there are a number of changes and like these little enhancements and things. Jeff and actually all of our content developers tend to put out a blog post after the book is released. So Jeff's going to be releasing a blog post on this shortly, which will explain some of the differences in the book that you'll see in 2020. So keep an eye out for that. So the other big thing with the civil book, so I mentioned kind of this looking at possible overhaul of these books, and this is where we really want to have some feedback from your customers. So, you know, one of the consistent messages that we're receiving from our customers is that 4 days for this book is a long time to expect students to be out of the work environment. So we're thinking about moving this to a user book and an administration book. So keeping all the user-specific material to maybe a 3-day focused on only what they need to know, and then the admin-type topics moving into kind of a 1-day. And you can piggyback them on back and forth. If you're a training center, it's very easy to still run it as 4 days. It's not going to affect you. Or you can run them separately. And so that manager course will really just be focused on what specific things like styles and templates that they would need to implement in their environment. So please feel free to reach out to myself or to Rhonda and let us know your thoughts on that. The next title that's in Jeff's portfolio is the BIM 360. So this is one that is showing as released in May, and it'll be out within the next couple days. I think it's going to the printer today, so very exciting. And this book is taking into account the next-gen interface. So our previous books actually were classic. And one of the feedbacks that we got were that there was too much duplicate between the 2 books. So we've decided to combine it into one course. So it includes content for Docs, Glue, and Build. And all of that information is in that 1 day of training. And what we really like about this is that as Autodesk matures the product, releases more modules, we can look at adding additional chapters to this book very easily. So that's kind of where we are with that book. It'll be out shortly. And again, Jeff is going to release a blog post on this to explain a little bit more to you in detail to help you out with that book. And then the other titles that we have listed here, they're kind of running out the end of the summer into the early fall. And MAP 3D initially, we're not looking at too many big changes. Most notably, what Jeff will be looking at will be the exercise files, and he'll be separating out the files into specific folders. And that, again, is based on feedback that we've received from trainers. So I hope you'll look forward to that one. The 2 InfraWorks books we expect to remain largely the same. There's really just going to be minor edits and improvements. But there has been some enhancements to component roads, so we will be looking at that as well and reflecting that into the courses. In terms of Navisworks, I don't have a lot of information yet in terms of what's new in that book. We haven't investigated it too much because it's kind of out at the end of the year. But one thing we are thinking about is incorporating a third day. So right now that is a 2-day course. We're looking at incorporating a third day, which would add quantification, scripting, and rendering to the kind of that book of content. So, you know, absolutely let us know your feedbacks on that as well. And finally, just the last of our titles here, visualization, which includes 3ds Max. You know, we'll be going through the book, looking at the functionality, making sure it all works in 2020. Some of the expected changes are always changes to the renderer, so incorporating any new changes to Arnold will be put into that as well. And then we're expecting some changes in Chapter 3. We're going to be updating that to reflect the enhancements for linking a Revit model into 3ds Max. So that workflow has changed a bit, and we'll update that in the book. In terms of the Vault learning guides, there are 2 books due out in May, and one of those, the Data Management for AutoCAD Users, is a new title. So in past years, we've always had the Inventor Users training guide, which taught basically user-specific information for data management using Vault. Now we're going to extend that to AutoCAD users. So a number of the chapters are duplicates, except for, you know, the specific use of AutoCAD. So again, that one, those are coming out this month. Some of the changes in those books will include content involving 2D PDF creation. So that's always a big one. And then any of the changes to copy design. So we'll reflect all those changes in the book as well. So basically that kind of rounds out the roadmap. So this is a roadmap that is ever-changing. We're always updating, and I think Rhonda has me updating it almost weekly or every 2 weeks, and it's posted on our website. So please keep an eye out on our website for that, and let us know your comments. So the next thing I actually did want to chat about was something we released in 2019. And in 2019, we made a change to how we released our instructor materials. So we had some great feedback from our customers. They're loving it. But I did want to spend a little bit of time introducing it again because I don't think not everyone understands or knows that we have this offering. So every year we release our learning guide, and that is for our students. So that basically is just, you know, the learning content. It has the exercises, has the review questions, command summary. So that's our learning guide. And then previously we used to just release this separate guide that would be in support of instructors and allow them to get the schedules, the overheads, that type of information. So instead, what we've done is we've released their own book. And some of the highlights include the following. So right at the beginning, kind of in that front matter at the beginning of the book, there's now a page that gives you the download link to the overheads if they exist for the course. So previously, that link would be sent to your training manager who bought the book. It might not get passed on to trainers. So now it's available in the book. The trainers will see it. It's obvious, and they can download it. The schedule also is no longer in a separate PDF file, so people love this as well. It's now in the training guide. So at the beginning, there's basically a couple pages summarizing all of the timing that's recommended throughout. And instead of even having to teach the class and flip back to that schedule, we have added the approximate time required option at the bottom of the page. So at the bottom of each chapter, chapter 1, kind of the page 1, of each chapter, there is the timing as well. So that's the same timing that's in the schedule. It's just in a nice convenient spot. So as soon as you're ready to teach that chapter, you see how long you should take. Okay, so again, it's just trying to make things a little bit more convenient for the instructor. One of the other big enhancements comments that we've got from students that were using our learning guides was that they felt pressured by seeing the estimated time for completion. So they see this exercise should take 15 minutes. Oh my goodness, I've taken a half hour. What did I do wrong? You know, getting frustrated. So really the reason it's there was for the instructor. So it's meant to guide the instructor to say, you know, we got to keep the pace of the class up. This is how long you should take, you know, that type of thing. So we removed that timing from the student guides, but we've now incorporated that into the instructor guides for the instructors. So we think that's a great add for the instructors to have. And in terms of the questions, now the answers are adjacent to the questions in the instructor guide version. So again, it's super easy for you as an instructor to review the question and then see the answers right there, versus previously we had a separate PDF that you'd have to go and flip to and that type of thing. So this is all trying to just make things a little bit more convenient and easier to use. So that kind of covers all of the enhancements to our instructor and learning guides as well that we wanted to talk about. So I'm going to hand this back now to Rhonda, and she'll finish things off.
Great. Excuse me. Thanks, Jen. So I think it never hurts to just do a quick review of our product formats because you know, as Jen mentioned, we've had a few changes in the last couple of years. So our learning guides, we have the smaller 8.5 by 7 size across the board. So that's for the printed guides, and the ones that you purchase through the ASCENT e-store are spiral bound. We also have our guides on Amazon if you prefer shopping through them. That book has a solid spine, or it's called perfect binding, so the sizing, the content, everything is identical. It's just that the binding is slightly different. We have our ebook still, which is a great option for those, you know, that like maybe a more green alternative. The nice features of that are they have color content. You can highlight them. If you are an instructor with a class using the same ebook, you can share notes and push notes out to your students. And also we found that a lot of instructors like them because they're a little more easier to carry, especially if you're having to travel to teach and things like that. And it's great for students too. You know, if you're on the go and maybe you want to just take it with you and don't want to have to carry a book around. We have e-learning bundles, which are another nice option. So these incorporate a group of titles. We have some prepackaged bundles available for purchase on our store. So we have bundles for AutoCAD, Civil 3D, Inventor, and Revit. It's a year-long subscription to our e-learning portal. So it's the exact same content that you would get in the printed guide or the ebook format. It's just delivered online through our e-learning portal, and you still have access to the exercise files and everything like that. So it's just a nice kind of all-in-one option if you prefer that type of access. And as Jennifer mentioned, we have the great instructor guides now. So it really is designed, as she mentioned, as a single resource for instructors. So, you know, even if you are perhaps just learning on your own, it's a good resource because it's got everything there together if you want that additional content to structure your own self-study, you know, how long to spend on each section, and then maybe to go back and check the answers as you've progressed throughout the course. So that information is all there. We do still have the instructor tools for the versions 2018 and older. The instructor tool downloads that Jen mentioned, we still have those available, so that has not gone away. And then just some other offerings, just to remind you too, we do have other services beyond our traditional curriculum, which you might not be aware of. So we have technical writing services that we offer, customization of our existing curriculum, and development of custom curriculum from scratch. So you may not be aware that we can do that. So if you are delivering training to your internal users, you know, you certainly want to ensure that they're receiving the most effective training possible. So that may be something you might want to take a look at. We can pull content from our existing guides into something different that's very focused on what your workflow process is. You know, we can help you with that. We can also add in, if you or even if you are assisting a customer of your own, we can help you create content for them, again, to facilitate what their training needs are. You know, we can bring in their models or your models, workflows into our existing material, or, you know, perhaps even create something custom from scratch for you that's going to really best fit your processes and your integrated tools that you're working with. And then just finally, our contact information is listed here if you need to reach us. Certainly, please follow us on Twitter and Facebook. We'll get notices out for releases as we progress through the next few weeks and months. And other news, we will put it out there. The 2020 release roadmap as Jennifer mentioned, is posted in a couple places. It's on the front page of our website of ascented.com. It's going to be under the featured items sections in the bottom right corner. It's also posted on the Autodesk Courseware page, along with lots of other great resources. So we do recommend that you watch the website for updates to the release roadmap schedule, because it's going to get updated as titles are released, and perhaps if there is a schedule change. So you want to watch for that. Our blog is also accessible from the home page, so we do put blog posts out about titles that we're putting out, or perhaps Q&A from follow-up from our webinar series. So certainly feel free to check that out, and we hope you will join us for future webinars as well. So again, just from the entire ASCENT team, we want to thank you for your time today, and we appreciate you joining us for this update on our 2020 titles.